Hello there. This is just a very quick little lesson on how you might want to approach getting your first basic chords into your hands. Now, when you've just begun playing guitar, one problem that I often find with my students is they have difficulty remembering the shapes of the basic chords and the transitions between them. So I've developed a small and simple system to remember some of the basic open chords and to make them all relate to each other so they're easier to remember. In the same way that if you get lost, you might find your way home through familiar landmarks. So this is going to be a very quick lesson. This is aimed at very early stage and total beginners who just want to get a few chords under their belt. So we're going to start off with the first chord that I like to call ground zero, which is C. And now this chord is formed by placing our ring finger on the 3rd fret on the A string, which is the 2nd from the top. And then we put our middle finger on the D string, which is the next string down, on the 2nd fret. And then we get our index finger, and some early students struggle with this, onto the B string, which is the 2nd from the bottom, behind the 1st fret. Now, a couple of basic tips with this is you want your fingers to be nicely hooked, nicely and very tall. That way you get a nice clean chord. So this way we've had our first chord, C. Now, the way that we begin with this system is you need to get really good at playing C. So what I recommend is that you form the chord C, you take your hand off, you give it a shake, and then you see how quickly you can reposition a clean ringing C. Once you can get to that point, you're well on your way. Now, assuming that you've already mastered the chord C, the next step is to add some changes which are of a very similar shape, therefore easy to remember. So I like to teach the next chord F, which is achieved simply by taking these two fingers and moving them this way. So you end up with your ring finger on the D string, which is the 3rd string from the top, and your middle finger on the G string, which is the 4th string from the top, heading down. Right. And then we get a quite serviceable F. Now, later on, you can flatten this finger to get a proper F, but this F really works. And it's technically F major 7, which is a bit of a jazz chord. So now, using the same shape as the C, with a slightly different position, you have acquired a second chord. At this point, I would recommend you moving between the two until you're comfortable. Right, now once you've got used to doing that and you feel very comfortable, the next step is to see if we can introduce another chord using the same shape. So the way we do this is we take these two bottom fingers when we're back in C, and instead of going down, we go up. And we end up with our ring finger on the E string on the 3rd fret, and our middle finger on the A string on the 2nd fret. And we let our index finger float. Now, if you strum from the top down to about the B string, you have a very serviceable G. So let's go from C to G. We've got our C chord. We move these two legs, and we just move them up. Take that off, we have a G. Later on, when you get fancy, you can pop your pinky on the 3rd fret on the E string, and you get a lovely full G, but that's when you're a little more advanced. But in the meantime, while you're still struggling to get your fat, chunky fingers doing what you want them to do, that works really, really well. So at this point, the advice I would give you is to practice all three. Like this. You'll probably pick it up pretty quick. Now, once you've mastered that, you're going to get bored of having only 3 chords, but utilizing this same system, we're going to turn our C into an A minor just by moving our ring finger. So what we do is we play the C chord, then we lift up our ring finger and we place it on the G string on the 2nd fret. And that makes like a little L shape. You've got the B string on the 1st fret, our ring finger on the G string on the 2nd fret, and our middle finger on the D string on the 2nd fret. Gives us a lovely sounding chord, which is A minor. So going back to the C chord, we lift up our ring finger and we tuck it next to our middle finger on the G string on the 2nd fret. We have A minor. Now you're the proud owner of C, F, G, A minor. Now the next step is we can turn our A minor into an E major quite easily. If you can remember the shape of the A minor, all you have to do is move that whole chord, all 3 fingers, just up 1 string. And it turns A minor into E major. It's got exactly the same shape. So back to A minor, the A string, 2nd fret, our ring finger goes to the D string, 2nd fret, and our index finger goes to the G string, 1st fret. I like to think of these 2 chords as having an L shape. So with the A minor, we have the index finger for the back of the L, and the next 2 make the bottom part. So now we have C. Move the 2 bottom legs to F. Move the 2 bottom legs back to C. Move the 2 bottom legs to the top, and we get a G. Move the 2 bottom legs back to C, remembering to drop our index finger back onto that B string. Then we lift up our ring finger and we pop it on the G string, 2nd fret. We get A minor, and then we move all 3 fingers up. We get E major, and then we take our index finger out, and that turns E major into E minor. So how many chords have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chords, all with kind of very similar shapes. So remember, we form our C chord, we remember the shape of that, and we're just moving the bottom legs to get the F and the G, and to get to the A minor and the E, all we have to do is move our ring finger, and then we're moving the shape up. I hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you next time.